Welcome to Come and See, your podcast for finding truth in a world of chaos. Brought to you by All for Jesus Living Waters Ministry. With host and founder Richard Case and co-host and retreat leader Kathy Ricconi. Join us every weekday at this time to discuss news, spend time in the Word, and receive answers to your personal questions about living life in God's truth. And now your host, Richard Case.
Well, good morning, Kathy. Here we are in mid-June, continuing to talk about the beautiful covenant. I'm going to bless you to make you a blessing. And we've had some great discussions about hope, and we're walking on this aspect of trust. And it started out by saying that trust is about, understanding what he has to say about something, because that's how he's going to guide you into, come and follow me, and I'll lead you into it, which is, by the way, what he keeps telling us. I don't know if you remember when Jesus, asked the disciples, this is in Matthew 16, who does everybody say I am? John the Baptist, you're Jeremiah, you're Elijah. He said, well, how about you boys? What do you have to say?
Who do you say I am?
And which is kind of the key question is, it doesn't really matter what other people say. It's about, well, where are you at this? And Peter says, you're the Messiah, the Son of the living God. And he says, the Father has revealed this to you. And because of this revelation and your ability, and what he's really saying there is your ability to hear and receive revelation, truth, word, I'm going to build my church upon that. And you'll be able to exercise authority, binding off, the power of the enemy, and loosing the very power of heaven into the situations that I speak to you about. And I'm going to build my church on the aspect of trust, that you can trust my word, and you're going to hear it, and you'll be able to hear it. And then, of course, he says, hey, by the way, I'm going to die, and I'm going to be beaten and sacrificed and be crucified. And Peter says, I'll never let that happen to you. And Jesus turns to him and says, get behind me, Satan, because you just went from revelation to your good idea, which, we understand why he said it, is that I'm going to protect you. Isn't that a good thing? And he says, actually, it's not, and there's a reason for it. He says, because you forgot something. As you're walking through the steps of life, and he said, yeah, this is going to be tough for you guys. I know it's going to be tough for you guys. But don't you try to figure this out and do what you think is a good idea. Rather, he said, you forgot, Peter, to ask me what I had to say about this without you concluding on your own based on, well, I heard you say something, but I'm going to go do something about it. No, get behind me, Satan, because you have the things of men in mind, not the things of God. And then he says, if anyone would come after me, which again is the title of our show.
Come and see.
Come after him. And if anybody would come and see, if anybody would come and experience, he says, you must deny self, surrender your will, your way, go to the cross and stand on what I've done for you. I've freed you from the necessity to be perfect and from the power of Satan. And now come and do what? Follow me. And he said the following part is where I'm going to do something. And this is where the church gets pretty fuzzy, because they kind of think it's arbitrary. Well, maybe it'll be good, maybe not. Maybe God's going to have you not enjoy life, and that's your lot in life. Or you're going to have pain, and so it's going to be endless pain. And I'm not diminishing the fact that stuff happens and bad stuff happens, because we live in a wicked world and we're surrounded by self-centered people.
And there is legitimate suffering, yes.
And there's real suffering, and it's things. But he says, I don't want you to stay there. If you have a heart, and I firmly believe this, no matter what people are facing, God says, come and follow me, and I'm going to lead you into the covenant. And I know that's
right in the middle of it.
I know,
Yeah.
and I know that's hard for people to say is, yeah, but I haven't experienced that blessing, or I know a lot of people that I would say their life isn't very blessed at all. And it seems to me that what you're saying about the covenant just isn't so. That maybe you're lucky, but I don't see a lot of people doing it. And what I say to them is, well, I think they don't know the nature of God and the promises of God, and that the covenant is his basis upon living with us as a promise, is that I'm going to deliver to you the covenant in all circumstances. Now, the key is if we said, okay, good, when do we want that? we
want it now.
We want it right now, and take care of it the way I'd like you to take care of it. He says, no, trust in the Lord with all your heart, soul. Lean not on what?
On your own
understanding. But come and follow me, and I will direct your steps. But the steps are going somewhere. It's not I'll direct your steps into maybe perhaps crummy. I'll direct your steps into covenant life, regardless of what you're facing, because I can do it. I have the power, to deliver it. And he said it's about your desire to learn to trust me, because there's got to be something there for us to trust, not just, okay, I trust God and I'm going to go to heaven eternally, but rather has to be a trust that the covenant actually exists,
right?
And that I can count on it, and it plays out in very specific things. And interesting with our life, when we were in Croatia, our second week, there was discussion because we're on the sea, we're on the Adriatic Sea, and there was discussion about, it'd be fun to go out on a boat together. Not on just going out and coming back, but go out and go swimming and snorkeling and all this. Wouldn't that be fun? And so I said, okay, let me look into that. At first, there was just going to be a few that wanted to go, and then as we start talking about it, the number grew. So all 16 people were going to go. Well, I called our tour agent and said, hey, could we get a boat? Yeah, I can work on it and do it. And then she comes back and says, the most you can have is 12 people. You can't have 16. I said, well, if we're going to go, we all want to go together, And again, it's about, okay, Father, what do you have to say about this? And he says, I'm gonna deliver it to you. Okay. So I said to her, could you please check other things and see what's available, And so she does, and she calls me back and says, hey, I found a guy that has a big pontoon boat. Pontoon boats are the ones that allow more than 12.
Right.
And it was by this whole law thing. There was like you couldn't even have a yacht with more than 12 people on it. It's some maritime thing. So, but these pontoon boats can handle more than 12. What do you want to do that? And I said, well, how much? And she found out it's not that bad. And okay, yeah, and they can come. They'll come to the resort, pick you up, take you to lunch, go to a beach, go swimming. Go to a caves, go snorkeling, and you can have the whole thing for the whole day. And the price was really very reasonable. And so it was a matter of, and by the way, the answer could have been no.
Right.
It's okay. It wasn't like go make it happen, God. It was it's not.
It was just what do you have to say?
It's what do you have to say about
this? That
instruction.
Yeah.
And I will deliver it to you. Wait, trust, and see what happens, and I'll deliver it. And then as we did, we all went out, and it was one of those spectacular moments of the trip, because everybody was out in the water. We went swimming, snorkeling, went to this place, got off on the pier and had lunch, and everybody talked about how spectacular was that. And God says, yeah, because that's covenant life. And it wasn't go make it happen yourself. It was let me guide you to the right person. Let me guide the guide to her right person, because she wasn't even aware that it was possible. She said, I don't think it's possible, but I'll check. And she called and called and called. And somebody said, hey, yeah, I got a pontoon boat. I can do it. So it was really remarkable. And so trust is literally not leaning on your own understanding or go making things happen. Don't have the things of men in mind like Peter did, but rather deny self, stand on the cross, and come and follow me into what I'm going to do. And so we learned last time we're in Proverbs 3, 1-15. Why don't you go ahead and read that again as we discuss this. Proverbs 3, 1-15, that we have these verses in, but there's more to it.
Great. My son, do not forget my law, but let your heart keep my commands. For the length of days and long life and peace they will add to you. Let not mercy and truth forsake you. Bind them around your neck. Write them on the tablet of your heart, and so find favor and high esteem in the sight of God and man. Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct your paths. Do not be wise in your own eyes. Fear the Lord and depart from evil. It will be health to your flesh and strength to your bones. Honor the Lord with your possessions and with the first fruits of all your increase. So your barns will be filled with plenty, and your vats will overflow with new wine. My son, do not despise the chastening of the Lord, nor detest his correction. For whom the Lord loves, he corrects, just as a father the son in whom he delights. Happy is the man who finds wisdom, and the man who gains understanding. For her proceeds are better than the profits of silver, and her gain than fine gold. She is more precious than rubies, and all the things you may desire cannot compare with her.
Yeah, and then actually read verse 16 and 17 too.
Sure. Length of days is in her right hand, in her left hand riches and honor. Her ways are of pleasantness, and all her paths are peace.
Or shalom. Yep. So that if you attach that last statement, which we'll kind of come back to, but he says, trust not on your own, lean not on your own understanding, but in all your ways acknowledge him, and he will direct your paths. And then in verse 17, he makes a statement about that. Again, her paths, her ways are ways of pleasantness, and all of her paths are what? Shalom.
Peace.
Shalom.
Yeah.
Favor. Covenant. My path is covenant. And the word there is purposeful. It's all. Not some. When I taught with Henry Blackaby, he'd be reading verses like this, and he'd say to the group, now in the Hebrew, all means all. You can count on it. He says you can count on it. It's all. It literally means every one of them. All of his paths are shalom. And he says, learn to trust me. Do not be wise in your own eyes, but depart from evil. And again, that departing is don't stay in these crummy stuff that happens to you. That it's annoying, frustrating, irritating, oppressive. He says you don't need to stay there. Depart from it. And now remember, and this is cool. Departing isn't okay. I'm gonna do something about it. He says departing just says don't stay there. Let me do what? Guide your steps into my covenant.
Right.
And so just don't get stuck there, but depart by saying, well, I'm not going to put up with this. I don't know what to do next, but I'll go pursue path. And then he says this, which is kind of cool. He throws this in, and whenever you get into that understanding of why would he put this there, he says honor the Lord with your first fruits. And he says I'll take care of you financially. Okay. Now think about, he's talking about trust. He's talking about following. Why do you think he put that in there as, hey, by the way, honor the Lord with your first fruits, and I will take care of you?
Yeah, in my mind, that is probably one of the most foundational places for trust, because one, everybody needs provision.
Okay.
And so it is very universal in the fact that we can all relate to that. And two, that is probably the thing that we struggle the most to trust. You know, so I think that is a competition in our heart for trusting God.
Yeah, so that if you're able to tithe, if you're able to give to the Lord's work first, and for the word there, first fruits, as your first thing. So when you get paid, you to give that first before you try to figure out the rest of your finances. Now,
Right.
It's an interesting thing because he says, generally speaking, what is your ability when you're not learning, when you haven't learned this, and financially you consume your income? And he says, hey, by the way, I know you've been consuming your income, or even building up debt, which in our day and age would be credit cards.
Right.
Give to me first. And the typical reaction is what? Yeah, but if I do, my financial condition is going to get worse. So this is what we say, and I hear this all the time. When you bless me, I'll tithe. God says it works the other way around.
Right.
When you trust me, I'll take care of you, and you'll be pleased to tithe because you'll see the blessing of the covenant, which I'm going to start to make all things work together for good. It's going to include your finances, and because he said, I'm going to fill your barns, your vats, so that you're having sufficiency. But again, he's not talking about wealth building. Like, this isn't a ticket to go get wealthier. Could be, you could be blessed with that, but it's a matter of, I'm going to give you freedom financially, and the things of your life are going to come in sync. And he said, the reason I put it here is what you said, is that every person in the entire world has to deal with this. And if you're willing to honor me, you say what? I trust you.
Right.
Because you're going to have to deliver the other side of it, because I can't do this on my own. And generally speaking, when I learn it, which is what Linda and I did when we were young, we weren't in a position where we could tithe.
Right.
He says, well, you got to trust me. And he said, this is the essence of it.
And it's actually foundational in growing trust. Don't you agree? I mean, I think that is one of the starting points for a lot of people in truly learning to trust God is taking that step of faith in their finances and giving of their first fruits, and God uses that to begin to grow their trust.
Now think about, you just said that. Why do you think that is? It's the foundational. Why do you think that is? About money.
Great question. Well, I mean, I know that it definitely just competes for our heart.
Yeah. And see, it's tangible because he said this is the one area that is absolute and going to be demonstrated in reality. Has to be.
Right.
So go to Malachi 3, 10 to
yes, this is where he says we can test him in it.
10 to 12. Yeah. He's reiterated. Remember, he just said, I'm going to fill your barns. I'm going to fill your vats. Okay. Read 10 to 12. And we got to go all the way to 12 here, by the way.
Sure. Bring all the tithes into the storehouse, that there may be food in my house. And try me now in this, says the Lord of hosts, if I will not open up for you the windows of heaven and pour out for you such blessing that there will not be room enough to receive it.
Verse 11 and 12.
And I will rebuke the devourer for your sakes, so that he will not destroy the fruit of your ground, nor shall the vine fail to bear fruit for you in the field, says the Lord of hosts. And all the nations will call you blessed, for you will be a delightful land, says the Lord of hosts.
Yeah, and the word here, blessing, I'm going to pour out blessing. It's not just the financial piece. It includes that, but it's not just that. It's that you're going to have beautiful relationships. You're going to have freedom. You're going to have shalom. You're going to see me do great and mighty things that only I can do to excite you. I'm going to have people around you that you're going to love to be with and to have fellowship with. And then he says, by the way, I'm going to rebuke Satan, the devourer, so that he can't steal what I'm going to give you. Because the enemy is always trying to kill, steal, and destroy. So he says, not only am I going to bless you, I'm going to protect you and protect the things that I'm having you experience, and you can trust it. And so he says, as we attach these two things together, he said, first of all, it is the foundation of trust. Why? Because it involves every single person with every situation. Right. Even if you're a farmer back then, you would, sacrifice or give away, 10% of your animals
Right.
and your produce and provide for the work of God. And he says, now this is because I'm going to show you something. You can test me in this. He said, I know that you have a hard time with trust. And because of the covenant, my deliverance of the things that I'm speaking may take some time, because I have to arrange things. Like with Abraham, it took him 25 years to do that. But one thing he learned was tithing. And that you can learn to trust me with this very fundamental thing. You can test me. I will tangibly show you that. And this is going to be one of the most beautiful places where you can build trust, because when you see that really happen, you say, wow, look at that. I fulfilled by honoring him. I trusted him even though I didn't have the wherewithal to do it. And then he delivered to me. The beauty of that, and now I can experience trust. And he says, now take it further beyond just the money part, which is why he says, hey, by the way, do what? Well, seek wisdom. About what? The path of life. It's more precious than anything you got. So he says, I'm going to teach you about trust through tithing, and it'll be material. But I'm going to give you wisdom, which he reiterates and says, do you understand? It's way, way more valuable than all the stuff I just gave you. How cool is that? Because why? I'm going to lead you into the place of fulfillment, of the covenant. So that when Linda and I were learning this, we were young, married, and we were broke, and overextended financially, and I was making okay money. As an MBA in a young Fortune 500 company, I was making money, but we had a way outspent it. And we got financially in trouble, and God, taught us this aspect of you can trust me and test me in this, and my comment was, yeah, but I don't have the money to do it, and I can't do it. And when you bless me, I'll do it. And I just kept hearing, doesn't work that way. You're going to have to trust me, and but I can't do it. I'm telling you, tithe. And so, we got, through, it was really, in a sense, we learned that was the very first part of learning what abiding was all about. We just stayed with it. And then we just said, well, God's telling us to do this.
We got to do it.
That's where I think the fear of the Lord is. Well, let's believe what he has to say is true. Kind of risky, but okay. So we committed. We said, we commit to tithe. And by the way, whenever I saw something simple in the Bible, it wasn't like, okay, do I tithe the gross or the net? How can I get through? It's like, I'm just going all in. I'm tithing gross, because that's what he said. He didn't talk about taxes, net of
that
taxes.
That is us trying to control it, right?
So we committed, and so that was on a Sunday night. We committed. Friday, I get called in my bank. I had just started there at this Fortune 500 company like for 3 or 4 months. And he says, I don't even know why, but I got a note from HR that we're going to give you a 12% raise. And, hey, hallelujah. 10% for God and 2% for us. So it worked out. Awesome. It worked out great. And then God blessed us. Within a year and a half, we were pretty much financially free, except our house and our car. All the debt was paid off because we got blessed with increases in stock and reducing our spending, and we were blessed. And God says, now learn to trust me as you go in bigger things and seek wisdom, which is way more precious than you just getting financially free right now.
Right.
It includes that, but it's way, way, way bigger because you can lean not on your own understanding, but trust me, and I will direct your steps into the paths, which are all going to be pleasantness. It's exceptional, and it's going to be shalom. And he said, not kinda, it's absolute. It's going to happen. And again, because that was we were just young married, so that was 50 some years ago. We've had difficulty, we've had issues, we've had trouble in life, but we've always lived in the beautiful life of the covenant. because he promises that. So it's a beautiful thing to lean not on your own understanding. Do not be wise in your own eyes. Learn to trust me, and financially is one of the easiest. In a sense, that's the easiest way. He says, because when you do it, I'll tangibly prove it to you. And because I'm going to prove it to you, you'll know that you can trust me in all these other things as you seek me to guide your steps, into the covenant. So we'll continue this discussion. We're gonna talk more about this aspect of trust. But this verse, particularly this set of verses, is so packed with such depth of how beautiful it is to, and God keeps saying, if I was you, don't go your own way. Come my way and let me show you how beautiful this can be.
Yeah. And I would just challenge our listeners too, if somebody is listening today and this is something they're struggling with, I want to trust God more. Take some time really, and like we said, we talk about abiding, just really spend some time digging into this particular passage and spend time and ask God to show you what the next step, what he would like to do to grow your trust. He may be calling you to tithe if you've never tithed before. He may be calling you to step out, and you have learned trust in tithing, and now he has another step he wants to grow you in, trusting him in seeking his wisdom. But we practice and we train with him, and he grows our trust. And it's all a process. So press in and allow him to continue growing it. If that's stirring your heart right now, then I think, he wants to speak that to you and wants to continue to bear that fruit. So,
amen. And then if you have questions, again, just send us at questions@afjministry.com, questions@afjministry.com. Put it on the YouTube channel. We'll get them. And we'd love to, if you have specific questions, or, hey, what about, or, hey, this is my situation, what do you have to say about that? We'd be happy to answer them as we can just relay truth of what God says, and then invite you to basically come and follow, and he'll prove it. He'll prove it to you, and that's kind of the cool thing. So trust isn't like you got to go make sure you have trust to get it. He just says you have a heart to follow. I'll give you the trust to
step by
learn that you can trust me. So it's kind of fun. Well, we'll see you. Pick it up again tomorrow, and we'll talk more about this aspect of trust.
Sounds great. Thanks for joining us, everyone. Have a great afternoon.
Okay, see you soon.
Thank you for joining us for today's episode of Come and See, your podcast for truth in a world of chaos. Brought to you by All for Jesus Living Waters Ministry. Send us your questions and comments, and tune in tomorrow for more answers to your personal questions about living life in God's truth. Remember, God's will is best and none better. His truth brings peace in this world of chaos.